A black woman made a silent signal to a Korean mafia boss. What happened next changed everything. Airport security footage never showed what really happened that night at Club Obsidian in Busan. Some nights burn themselves into your memory with such precision that years later, you can still feel the bass vibrating through your bones, still smell the expensive cologne and perfume hanging in the air, still see the flash of recognition in a stranger's eyes that changes everything. Min-ho Park moved through the crowded nightclub like he was made of smoke. 36 years old, wearing a simple black suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. No flashy jewelry, no entourage announcing his importance. Nothing that screamed power or danger or the kind of influence that could make entire city blocks go silent with a single phone call. To everyone around him, he was just another wealthy businessman enjoying the elite pleasures of Busan's most exclusive nightclub. No one looked twice. That was exactly how he preferred it. The VIP section glittered with wealth, politicians pretending not to recognize celebrities, tech moguls buying bottles worth more than their employees' yearly salaries, beautiful people whose only currency was their beauty. Min-ho noticed everything: the security guard with the slight bulge of a concealed weapon, the businessman too drunk to hide his cocaine habit, the server slipping extra drinks to favored customers. Old habits. Even here, in territory he controlled with invisible threads, he couldn't stop himself from cataloging threats and opportunities, from reading rooms the way some people read books. That's when he saw her. A black woman, maybe late 20s, statuesque, with close-cropped hair and skin so deep and rich it seemed to absorb the pulsing neon lights rather than reflect them. She sat in the corner VIP booth beside a Korean man in his 50s. Expensive suit, gold watch too large for his wrist, the cultivated confidence of someone used to people doing exactly what he wanted. Choi Dae-sung, import-export business, legitimate on paper, connected enough to be dangerous. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. Those eyes, they moved constantly, scanning exits, watching staff, calculating something that nobody else seemed to notice. She wore a red dress that hugged her body like a second skin, but she held herself with a rigidity that spoke of performance rather than pleasure. The man kept one hand on her wrist, his thumb moving in small circles that might look affectionate to anyone who couldn't recognize possession when they saw it. Min-ho felt something cold settle in his chest, recognition not of the woman, not of Choi, but of the dynamic between them. He'd seen it before in different forms, different contexts, different victims. The shape of fear disguised as compliance. The performance of enjoyment over a foundation of terror. Most people in that nightclub saw a successful businessman with his exotic girlfriend or escort. That's what it was supposed to look like. That's what made it perfect. Because predators didn't wear signs. They wore designer suits and patient smiles and the kind of practiced concern that made strangers look away, satisfied that everything was exactly as it should be. But Min-ho Park had spent 20 years learning to see past surfaces. And what he saw now made his jaw tighten. As he passed their table, the woman looked up. For just a moment, their eyes locked. Something flickered in hers. A recognition that Min-ho wasn't what he appeared to be. A calculation. A risk assessment. Then, as Choi turned to speak with another businessman, her hand lifted just slightly, just for half a second. Palm flat, thumb tucked, her fingers extended and pressed together, then lowered immediately back to her lap. The signal. Min-ho's blood went cold. He knew that gesture. It had spread across social media, across borders, across languages. A silent way for people in danger to ask for help without their abuser knowing. A last resort. A plea that said, "I need help and I cannot speak." He kept walking, didn't react, didn't turn back, but his mind was already racing. He could call security, report a suspicion. But what would he say? That a woman made a hand gesture that might mean something or might mean nothing. That a respected businessman seemed controlling? Choi had enough connections to make any accusation disappear before the words finished leaving Min-ho's mouth. And the woman would deny everything. She'd already proven her ability to perform. That's what victims did when their abuser was within earshot, when escape felt impossible, when the consequences of speaking were worse than the situation they were already in. Min-ho knew this not from theory, but from memory. 5 years ago, Min-ho had failed someone. Her name was Soo-Jin, his sister. 23 years old, bright, ambitious, accepted to study international business in London. She'd called him 3 weeks after arriving. Something in her voice had sounded wrong. She'd asked strange questions about coming home early, about whether their parents would be disappointed if she didn't finish her program. Min-ho had told her to stick it out, that homesickness was normal, that she'd adjust. 2 days later, another call. She'd whispered something about a man who'd promised to help her career, about feeling trapped. Min-ho had been in a meeting. He'd promised to call back. He never did. 3 weeks later, Soo-Jin stopped answering her phone. 6 weeks after that, British authorities found her body in an abandoned building near the docks. Evidence of trafficking. Evidence of months of abuse. Evidence that she'd fought at the end. Min-ho had gone to identify her body, had brought her home in a box, had watched his parents collapse under grief so heavy it bent their spines permanently, had stood at her funeral and accepted condolences from people who didn't know that he could have saved her, that he'd heard her asking for help and had been too busy, too distracted, too fucking comfortable to listen. He'd sworn after that day that he would never make the same mistake twice, that if he ever saw the signs again, he wouldn't wait for permission to act. He would trust what he saw over what he was told. This story of unexpected rescue will change how you see the world. Hit that like button if you've ever felt someone needed help but weren't sure how to intervene. The night stretched on. Min-ho positioned himself at the bar with a perfect view of Choi's table. He watched as the businessman ordered another bottle of champagne, as he pulled the woman closer, as he whispered things in her ear that made her smile with mechanical precision. She performed flawlessly, laughing at the right moments, touching his arm with practiced intimacy, sipping champagne she never actually swallowed. Min-ho made a call, subtle, quick, to his most trusted lieutenant. "I need everything on Choi Dae-sung, now, and the black woman with him. Find out who she is, how long she's been in Korea, everything." 20 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a text. Choi Dae-sung, 52. Import-export business specializing in luxury goods. Investigated twice for human trafficking. Charges dropped both times. Witnesses recanted. High-level connections in police and government. Another text followed. Woman appears to be Maya Washington, 28. American. Former NYU student. Came to South Korea 11 months ago as English teacher. No social media activity for past 7 months. Reported missing by friend in Seoul 5 months ago. Case closed after email received from her account saying she had decided to extend her stay and travel Asia. Min-ho's grip tightened on his glass. The pattern was clear now. Recruit, isolate, break, traffic. A pattern repeated so many times it had become an industry that had swallowed his sister whole and spit out her bones. He watched as Choi signed the bill, stood, guided Maya toward the exit. His hand never left the small of her back, not a gesture of affection but of control. Maya's face had settled into a careful neutrality, a mask perfected through practice and necessity. Min-ho followed at a distance. Outside, the Busan night air carried the scent of the sea. Lights from high-rise buildings reflected off the water in the distance. Choi's driver held open the door of a black Mercedes. Maya got in first, sliding across the leather seat. Choi followed. The door closed. The car pulled away from the curb. Min-ho got into his own vehicle, a dark Audi with tinted windows. His driver, Kim, asked no questions. Follow the Mercedes. Keep your distance. The car moved through Busan's late-night traffic. 20 minutes later, they pulled up outside the Paragon Hotel, 52 floors of luxury overlooking the harbor. Min-ho watched as Choi and Maya entered through the revolving doors. He waited 5 minutes, then followed. The hotel lobby gleamed with marble and gold accents. A massive chandelier cast fractured light across the space. The front desk clerk recognized Min-ho immediately. His organization had interests in most high-end establishments in Busan, but was professional enough to show no reaction. "Mr. Choi's room number," Minho said quietly. Suite 4801, sir. Minho nodded his thanks, moved toward the elevator bank. He took his phone out, made another call. I need surveillance on Paragon Hotel, Suite 4801. I need to know Choi's schedule tomorrow. I need to know if he has travel plans. I need to know if he has security. I need it all within the hour. He rode the elevator to the 47th floor, one below Choi's suite. He wouldn't approach tonight. Tonight was for gathering information, for planning. Because when Minho moved, it would be decisive. There would be no mistakes. Not this time. In his hotel room, reports flowed in. Choi had booked a private car for tomorrow afternoon. Destination: a compound outside the city, owned through a shell company, isolated, secure. He had made arrangements to fly to Shanghai 3 days later, one ticket in his name. Cargo arrangements for an unspecified package. Maya's passport had been spotted in Choi's briefcase. Analysis of her last known communications suggested coercion. Her friend in Seoul had received strange messages that didn't match Maya's usual writing style. The pattern was clear. Tomorrow, Choi would move Maya to his compound. From there, she would disappear into his network. Her identity would be erased. She would become product, not person. The way Soo-Jin had become product. The way thousands of women became product every year while the world looked away. While governments pretended outrage but accepted bribes. While families were left with empty bedrooms and unanswered questions. Minho felt rage building in his chest, cold. Focused, the kind of anger that didn't cloud judgment but sharpened it. Choi Dae-sung had built an empire on broken bodies. And tomorrow that empire would face its first real challenge. Morning came. Minho had slept 3 hours, woken to more reports. Choi's security detail was minimal, one driver who doubled as bodyguard. His car was scheduled for 2 p.m. Hotel checkout at 1:30. Minho's team had secured the room next to Choi's suite, placed surveillance, confirmed Maya was still there, confirmed she showed signs of physical distress, moving carefully, a bruise visible on her upper arm when she changed clothes. Minho made his final preparations, not with weapons but with information. He compiled everything his network had gathered on Choi's operation, financial records showing suspicious patterns, emails obtained through methods better left unexamined, photographs of Choi with known trafficking victims, testimonies from women who had escaped similar situations but had been too afraid to go to authorities. He added files on Choi's political connections, the bribes he paid, the officials he controlled. This wasn't just about Maya Washington. This was about Soo-Jin Park. This was about every woman who had ever been seen as commodity rather than human. This was about drawing a line in blood if necessary. At 1:15 p.m., Minho positioned himself in the hotel's parking garage. Level B2, near the elevator bank, hidden by a concrete pillar. At 1:37, the elevator doors opened. Choi emerged first, then Maya. She wore a conservative blue dress, her hair covered by a scarf. She carried no purse, no phone, no visible possessions. Choi pulled a rolling suitcase with one hand, kept the other on Maya's elbow. They walked toward a black Mercedes waiting near the exit ramp. Minho stepped out from behind the pillar. The next part of the story shows what real courage looks like. Comment below if you've ever witnessed someone standing up for someone who couldn't defend themselves. Choi Dae-sung, Minho said quietly. Choi stopped, turned. Recognition flashed across his face, followed immediately by calculation. He knew who Minho was. Everyone in certain circles knew Minho Park. Park SSI, Choi said, his voice carefully neutral. This is unexpected. I'm sure it is. Minho kept his voice even, his posture relaxed. Violence often announced itself with stillness rather than motion. I was hoping we might have a conversation. Choi's grip on Maya's elbow tightened. She remained perfectly still, eyes down, the posture of someone who had learned that invisibility was the safest option. I'm afraid we have a schedule to keep, Choi said. Perhaps another time. I'm afraid it needs to be now. Minho didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. It concerns your business practices. Specifically, The ones that aren't listed on your company registration. Choi's face hardened. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Min-ho took out his phone, showed Choi the screen, a document detailing financial transfers to shell companies known to be involved in human trafficking. This is just the beginning of what I have. There's much more. Choi's eyes darted around the parking garage. His driver stood by the car, watching but not intervening. Not yet. What do you want, Park? Choi's voice had lost its polite veneer. First, you're going to let go of Ms. Washington's arm. Maya's head lifted slightly at the sound of her name. This doesn't concern you, Choi said, his grip still firm on Maya. I made it my concern the moment I saw her signal for help. Maya's eyes widened. She looked at Min-ho directly for the first time. Hope flickered across her face, quickly suppressed. Signal? What signal? Choi laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're mistaken. Ms. Washington is my guest. We have business arrangements. Let go of her arm, Min-ho repeated. Or the next call I make will be to release every piece of information I have on your operation to every law enforcement agency and media outlet in Asia. Your name will become toxic. Your political friends will abandon you. Your business partners will disavow ever knowing you. And that's before my organization takes a personal interest in your future. The threat hung in the air between them. Choi's jaw tightened. Slowly, deliberately, he released Maya's arm. Ms. Washington, Min-ho said gently, would you like to leave with Mr. Choi? Or would you prefer another option? Maya looked at Min-ho, then at Choi. Fear and hope warred on her face. She'd been conditioned to believe there was no escape, that resistance brought consequences. Min-ho could see the calculations running behind her eyes. Was this real? Was it a trap? Was one predator simply replacing another? He has my passport, she finally whispered. He has everything. Min-ho nodded. Mr. Choi is going to return your passport and any other documents he has that belong to you. Now. Choi didn't move. Now, Min-ho repeated. Or the consequences begin immediately. Choi's face twisted with rage, but he reached into his suit jacket, pulled out a U.S. passport with a worn blue cover. He held it out. Maya reached for it with trembling fingers, took it, clutched it to her chest like a shield. That's a start, Min-ho said. Now the rest. There is nothing else, Choi snapped. Your briefcase suggests otherwise. Choi's eyes narrowed. He set his briefcase on the ground, opened it. Inside were papers, Maya's teaching contract, her Korean visa documentation, her birth certificate, letters from her family. He took them out, handed them to her one by one. Maya held the documents against her chest, her breathing quick and shallow, like someone who couldn't quite believe what was happening. Ms. Washington, my car is parked over there. Min-ho gestured to his Audi, where Kim waited. You're welcome to wait there while Mr. Choi and I finish our conversation. Maya hesitated, looked at Choi, who stood rigid with barely controlled fury. He can't hurt you now, Min-ho said quietly. And he never will again. Maya took a step away from Choi, then another. When no hand reached out to stop her, she moved more quickly toward Min-ho's car. Kim opened the door for her. She got in. The door closed. Min-ho turned his full attention to Choi. Here's what happens next, Min-ho said. His voice dropped, became something cold and sharp as a blade. Your operation ends today. Your connections to trafficking networks severed. Your compounds where you hold women emptied. Your contacts who help transport human beings like cargo terminated. You have no right, Choi began. I have every right. Min-ho cut him off. 5 years ago, my sister was taken by men like you. She died alone, afraid, treated like property instead of person. I didn't save her. That failure is mine to carry. But I can save others. Starting with Maya Washington. Starting today. Choi's eyes widened slightly at the mention of Min-ho's sister. Everyone in their circles knew the story of Soo-Jin Park. Everyone knew what her death had done to Min-ho. How it had changed him. how it had focused his considerable resources toward hunting those who trafficked in human misery. "You're making a mistake," Choi said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I have protection, connections, people who would be very unhappy if anything happened to me." Min-ho smiled without warmth. "I'm aware of your connections. Minister Kim, Chief Inspector Yoon, Chairman Lee of Daesang Group. They're all named in the files I've prepared. Their financial transactions with you, their visits to your establishments, the underage girls you provided for them, everything." The color drained from Choi's face. "You're bluffing." "I never bluff." Min-ho took out his phone again, showed Choi photographs, the minister leaving a building known to house trafficking victims, the police chief accepting an envelope in a restaurant, the chairman with a girl who couldn't have been more than 16. These men won't protect you once their own positions are threatened. Self-preservation is a powerful motivator. They'll throw you to the wolves to save themselves. "What do you want?" Choi asked, his voice hoarse. "I told you, your operation ends today. You will provide a list of every victim currently in your possession. You will release them. You will provide funds for their recovery, repatriation, whatever they need. You will close your networks. And you will never, ever engage in this business again. And if I refuse?" Min-ho's expression didn't change. "Then everything I have goes public. And after the media and the police are done with you, I'll still be waiting. And my justice isn't bound by laws or ethics or mercy." Silence stretched between them. In that moment, Min-ho saw the calculation in Choi's eyes, the weighing of options, the recognition that he had been outmaneuvered, the desperate search for escape. "How do I know you won't release the information anyway?" Choi finally asked. "You don't," Min-ho said simply. "But I'm a businessman. I understand the value of agreements honored. Meet my terms, and your personal disgrace remains private. Your more legitimate business interests can continue. Your life can continue." Choi stared at him for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged. "Defeat. I'll need time to arrange releases," he said. "You have 24 hours. My people will be watching. Any attempt to move victims, to hide assets, to alert your partners. The deal is void and everything burns." Choi nodded stiffly. "One more thing," Min-ho said. "Maya Washington. She never existed to you. You never met her. If she passes you on the street, you look through her like she's air. If you ever attempt to contact her, to find her, to harm her in any way, directly or through others, there won't be a second conversation." Choi's jaw tightened, but he nodded again. "Get in your car and drive away," Min-ho said. "My people will contact you with details on how to proceed." Choi picked up his briefcase, walked to his Mercedes. The driver opened the door. Before getting in, Choi turned back. "You've made an enemy today, Park." Min-ho's expression didn't change. "No," he said quietly. "I've given you a chance to live. Don't mistake mercy for weakness." The car door closed. The Mercedes pulled away, up the exit ramp, into the Busan afternoon. Min-ho walked to his own car, got in beside Maya. She sat clutching her documents, her face streaked with tears she hadn't bothered to wipe away. "Is it real?" she whispered. "Am I really free?" "Yes," Min-ho said. "He won't touch you again." "How can you be sure?" "Because men like Choi understand only one language, power. And in this moment, I have more of it than he does." Maya looked down at her passport, ran her fingers over the embossed cover. "I never thought I'd see this again," she said. "I never thought I'd go home." "You can go wherever you want," Min-ho said. "But first, if you'll allow it, I'd like to take you somewhere safe. Somewhere you can rest, receive medical attention if needed, speak with people who understand what you've been through." Maya looked at him, really looked at him, studying his face like she was trying to find the hidden agenda, the trap, the price she would inevitably have to pay. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "You don't know me." Min-ho was quiet for a moment. 5 years ago, he finally said, "my sister was in a situation similar to yours. I missed the signs. I ignored her calls for help because they were inconvenient, because I was busy, because I didn't want to believe something so terrible could happen to someone I loved. By the time I started looking for her, it was too late. He looked out the window at the city passing by. When I saw you make that signal, I knew I had a choice. I could walk away and wonder for the rest of my life if you ended up like Soo-Jin, or I could do what I should have done 5 years ago. Maya stared at him, tears filling her eyes again. I'm sorry about your sister, she said. So am I. Minho looked back at her. But today isn't about my guilt or my redemption. It's about your freedom, your future. I don't know what my future is, Maya said. He took everything. My job, my friends, my sense of safety. I don't know how to start over. One step at a time, Minho said. First, we get you somewhere safe. There's an organization I work with. They specialize in helping trafficking victims. They have medical staff, counselors, legal experts. They can help you get home if that's what you want, or help you rebuild here if you prefer to stay. And what's the cost? Maya asked, wariness creeping back into her voice. What do you want from me in return? Nothing, Minho said simply. Some debts can never be repaid. I couldn't save Soo-Jin, but in her name I can try to save others. That's payment enough. The car pulled up outside a nondescript building in a quiet neighborhood. No sign indicated its purpose. Security cameras monitored the entrance. This is the safe house, Minho explained. If you're comfortable, I'd like to introduce you to the director. Her name is Sun-Hai. She was a prosecutor before she started this organization. She's helped hundreds of women in situations like yours. Maya nodded, still clutching her documents. Okay, she whispered. Inside, the building was warm, clean, designed to feel like a home rather than an institution. Sun-Hai greeted them in the lobby. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and the composed demeanor of someone who had seen humanity at its worst but refused to give up hope. Minho made the introductions. Sun-Hai took Maya's hand in both of hers. You're safe now, she said in English. Everything that happens next is your choice. We're just here to help you make those choices from a position of freedom rather than fear. Maya's shoulders relaxed slightly. The first genuine easing of tension Minho had seen since he'd first spotted her in the nightclub. I'll leave you in Sun-Hai's capable hands, Minho said. She has my contact information if you need anything. Maya looked at him. Thank you, she said, her voice stronger now. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't repay it, Minho said. You just live, really live. And maybe someday, if you see someone else who needs help, you remember what it felt like to have someone notice, and you do for them what I did for you. Maya nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I will, she promised. Minho left the safe house, got back in his car. His phone was already buzzing with updates. Choi had returned to his office. Minho's people had him under surveillance. The first list of victims had been delivered, 12 women from 6 countries, held in 3 different locations. Teams were already moving to secure their release. It wouldn't bring Soo-Jin back. Nothing would. But somewhere in that safe house, Maya Washington was taking her first breaths of true freedom in almost a year. And tomorrow, 12 more women would do the same. 1 year later, Minho received an invitation. The opening of a new resource center for foreign women in South Korea, language classes, legal aid, employment assistance, and most importantly, education about trafficking warning signs and how to avoid predatory situations. The founder and director, Maya Washington. Minho attended the opening ceremony. The center was bright, welcoming, already busy with women from various countries. Posters on the walls showed the universal distress signal that had saved Maya's life, along with information in 12 languages about how to recognize dangerous situations and where to seek help. Maya spotted him in the crowd, made her way over. She looked different, stronger, confident, her eyes clear and direct. She wore a yellow dress that seemed to radiate the same energy she now carried. You came, she said, smiling. I wouldn't have missed it, Minho replied. This is impressive. How many women have you helped? 43 in the past 6 months, Maya said. And we've trained staff at 15 nightclubs to recognize distress signals and potential trafficking situations. 3 women have been identified and helped before they disappeared into the system. Pride filled Minho's chest, not in his own actions, but in what Maya had created from the ashes of her trauma. And you? He asked. How are you? Healing, Maya said simply. Some days are harder than others. But I'm living, really living like you told me to. Minho nodded. That's all any of us can do. Maya looked around at the center, at the women finding community and safety within its walls. I never planned to stay in Korea, she said. After everything that happened, I thought I'd run home as fast as possible. But then I realized, who better to help other foreign women than someone who's been through it? Who knows the warning signs, the tactics, the ways that predators isolate their targets. Soo-Jin would have done the same, Minho said quietly. She always wanted to help others. Maya touched his arm gently. She does help others, she said. Through you. Through what you do in her name. Minho looked away, not trusting his voice for a moment. When he looked back, Maya was watching him with understanding. I have something for you, she said. She handed him a small envelope. Inside was a simple card. On the front was the silhouette of a hand, palm outward, thumb tucked, fingers extended. Inside, a list of names. 43 names. These are all the women we've helped so far, Maya explained. I wanted you to know that what you did that day in the parking garage didn't just save me. It created ripples that have saved dozens more. And we're just getting started. Minho carefully placed the card back in its envelope. Thank you, he said. No, Maya replied. Thank you for seeing me when everyone else looked away. 3 years after that day in the hotel parking garage, Minho was in Seoul for a business meeting. He was walking through Gangnam when he heard someone call his name. He turned. Maya stood there, more elegant than ever in a tailored pantsuit. Her hair styled differently, confidence in every line of her body. Beside her stood a group of young women, clearly students or participants in one of her programs. Minho, Maya said warmly. What a coincidence. Maya, he greeted her. How are you? Wonderful, she said. I'm giving these women a tour of Seoul. They're part of our new International Student Protection Program. We partner with universities to make sure foreign students know their rights and how to stay safe while studying abroad. Minho nodded. Important work. The most important, Maya agreed. She turned to the women with her. Ladies, this is Minho Park. He's one of our organization's most significant supporters. The women smiled, bowed slightly in greeting. They didn't know the full story. They didn't need to. I should let you continue your tour, Minho said. Of course. Maya took a step closer, lowered her voice. The signal, she said. We've trained over 5,000 people to recognize it. Hotel staff, flight attendants, teachers, medical professionals. Last month, a bartender in Itaewon spotted it, contacted our hotline. We got a Brazilian student away from her abuser before he could move her out of the country. Minho felt something in his chest loosen. A knot of grief that had been there so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe without it. Soo-Jin would be proud, he said quietly. Maya smiled. She is proud, she said with certainty. Wherever she is. She rejoined her group, continued down the street, pointing out landmarks, her voice carrying confidence and purpose. Minho watched her go, then continued on his way. Later that evening, sitting in his office overlooking the Han River, he thought about how many people he passed each day, how many stories he'd never know, how many signals he might miss. He couldn't save everyone. He couldn't even see everyone. But he had seen Maya Washington, and she had seen others. And those others would see more. It would never bring Soo-Jin back. It would never erase his failure. But in that chain of seeing, of noticing, of refusing to look away when looking away was easier, there was something like redemption. Not complete, not perfect, but enough to make the next day worth facing. Because sometimes all it took was one person paying attention at exactly the right moment to change everything. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the smallest signal can save a life. Subscribe for more real stories about courage and redemption that will restore your faith in humanity.